Again, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is part 2 of our adding, subtracting, rational expressions. And these are example 3 of A, B, and C. Hopefully you can see if you want to pause the video or look at your handout that you have at home. Please be my guest. I think I copied them all correctly. The first question, they're a little bit more challenging than our example 2 that we looked at in an earlier YouTube video. We have m over 2m minus 4 minus 3m minus 6 plus 1. So notice already it seems a little bit more challenging, a little bit tricky right now to do. So the rules still are as follows. Notice I left them on the chalkboard, and they are to factor first. Everyone agree? Factor first. So I'll do this question. Chalk. In the first question, we have m over. The GCF is 2. So m minus 2 minus 3 over 3 times m minus 2, 1. So we factored successfully. So then now it says state restrictions. And the only restrictions are, in this case, m cannot equal to 2. Let's just pause here. Any questions so far? Just a small little disclaimer, for adding, subtracting, the restrictions, they actually tend to be pretty easy. They really tend to be straightforward. Okay, so unlike multiplying or dividing, which there's a lot more usually, don't get wrong, there might be more, but this is the stuff. This question is a little bit tricky because you're seeing not just one operation, we're just seeing 2 operations. So my question to you, I think a lot of you know, is what's the lowest common multiple? So if you're watching from home, you might want to pause the video and answer that question yourself. Any volunteer from the class? And notice, although you're looking at all 3 of these fractions, this one is actually pretty easy. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But any volunteer want to tell me? Anyone from class?
6.
6?
6, yeah.
It's so close. It's not the lowest common multiple. It is pretty close. Just raise your hand up.
Oh, yeah. 6m minus 2.
Nicely done. 6m minus 2 is correct. And so you just read m minus 2. I know. I think you were right. You're just saying it. Sorry. So this is missing this 3 over 3. This is missing a 2 over 2. And therefore, this 1. Notice what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply this 1 by. I think I already agreed. 6m minus 2 over 6m minus 2. Why am I doing that? One more time. When adding or subtracting fractions, we have to get a common denominator, an equivalent denominator that we can add and subtract everything together. So you might as well do everything all at once. So notice, unlike our example 2 that we did, and again, you don't have to ever show me this, right? You don't have to ever show me that. This is just for teaching purposes. Right? A lot of students will do this though, and then they'll do this equals. So, right? And again, this is just to gear you or to guide you what you're supposed to do. 3 times m, that's 3m. Remember, notice from our previous lesson or the previous example, there's a subtraction symbol, so let's be careful. I put that subtraction there. But in this case, it's not a big deal, thank goodness. This is a monomial, so 3 times 2, that's 6. So that's not a big deal, we're going to subtract 6. And this 1 is really this. So add 6 times m minus 2. And notice this was always that 1. However, hopefully everyone has seen that connection. There should be 3 terms. Notice I'm not introducing anything new. Right? Any question from the class? Anyone needs to clarify again? It's okay. You need to repeat it. This is usually brand new. This one's a little bit trickier than example 2, right? Any questions at all?
If the 1 was like 3, that would be 9. If the 1 was 3, that would be, wait, sorry.
If it was a 1, if it was a 3 times 6 would be 18.
Yeah, 18 and
Then I would still do this distribute properly, right? Yeah, nice. But it's not, thank goodness, on 3. So let's just make our lives a little easier. So then I think a lot of you know what we have to do. Hopefully, I'm running out of room, ladies and gentlemen, at home. So this is what most students will do. I'm just going to distribute this now. 6 times m is 6m. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. So Hopefully that's okay, ladies and gentlemen. Because I'm just running out of room. And now we have to collect like terms. 3m plus 6m, that's 9m. Negative 6 minus 12, that's negative 18. Over 6 over m minus 2. Notice this question now is popping up. Sometimes there's more simplification. Anyone see it from the class? 9m minus 18 over 6 times m minus 2. Anyone see anything interesting? Kai?
Can you take out 3?
We can take out a 3. Now, that's kind of neat. Most students will actually, because this is a 9m minus 18, most students would sometimes actually factor that out. And the reason why I recommend this rather than, although you're correct with the 3, when factoring, we couldn't see this 9 times m minus 2. Everyone see that? And this is actually a great question to just mess with you, ladies. If you're confused, that's okay. But this is a great question to show you, okay, wait a second, Mr. Chen. I can simplify further. I think everyone sees that. We have an m minus 2 here in the numerator. We have an m minus 2 in the denominator. These two can divide out. And the 9 and the 6 can also be reduced. Exactly what Kai said. 3 goes into that. So 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 6 twice. Ladies and gentlemen, this question is actually 3 halves. With those restrictions. So it seems suspiciously that we just stop here. And if you got here, it's really good. If you got 9m minus 18 over 6 times m minus 2, if you got here, way to go. What I'm trying to stress in yellow is that sometimes there's more simplification. And that is why adding and subtracting is actually harder. Even though when you were taught how to add and subtract as a little kid, you teach adding and subtracting first. We build up that way. Let's just pause here for a second for the class. Any questions? So this question had a couple things. First of all, if we factored out the 9, the GCF of 9, this actually had more simplification. And the 9 and the 6, the coefficients, also can be reduced. Any questions about that? They already see these worksheets, in some sense, they hit you hard with a lot of stuff. Question B though, let's take a look, make sure I copy this right. I think question B is x over 6x plus 6 plus 5 over 4x minus 12. So the first rule is to factor. Hope I'm not going too fast. They were just the GCF in those two denominators. What are the restrictions? The restrictions are x cannot equal to -1 or 3. I'm going to erase this C if that's okay. Take a look at that and erase it. This one is clearly a bit more challenging for the lowest common multiple. So what a lot of students will now do, instead of thinking of answers that are like this question here, the 6 times m minus 2, what a lot of students will do is they say, well, what are they missing? What's missing, right? And so ignoring the numerator, although that x and 5 are important, we just focus on the denominator. That's a 6 times x plus 1. This is a 4 times x minus 3. Well, this x plus 1 and this x minus 3, this one's missing an x minus 3. Right? And this one is missing an x plus 1. So we get the expression, the hard part out of the way. Now we look at 6 and the 4. Now it doesn't really matter. Some students do the coefficients part. Can anyone tell me what's the lowest common multiple between 6 and 4? Okay.
12?
It is 12. But how am I going to get to 12 with this 6? And how am I going to get to 12 with this 4? I think a lot of you know what I'm going to write. This one I'll just use a different color. I'll use blue if that's okay. Just to show it. This one's a little different, right? I'm going to multiply this by 2 times x minus 3 to get that 12 x minus 3 times x plus 1. And this one I'm going to multiply by 3 x minus, x plus 1 over 3 x plus 1. Then just move it out of the way. It's getting a little messy. What did I say? Let's just pause here. And again, I'm just showing you what some students might do in their heads, because some kids can't do that. I just like showing you how we're gonna get that lowest common multiple of 12. One more time, notice I did not choose 24 x plus 1 times x minus 3. 12 is a little easier to work with. Before we continue, everyone okay? So now you just write them out. And notice what's going to go in the denominator. You're literally going to write that lowest common multiple out. 12 x minus 3 times x plus 1 x, and let's just go through it slowly, times 2 times x minus 3. Here's the plus sign, so we don't have to worry about that. And then 5, that's the 5 there, times the 3 times the x plus 1. So, and it looks scary, right? So just take your time. This is not the only way to do this question, but I think this is just the best way for a lot of you so you can grasp it. Any questions still? We need to repeat things? It's okay. And notice again how the level of difficulty just ramps up. Any questions? Anyone still too puzzled? It's okay. It's okay if you want to ask. So most students are going to group this together. 2 times x is 2x. Oh, Tom.
Yeah, just a quick question.
Sure.
So yeah, when you go back to step before, yeah, there. Can you do 2x and then 15 instead next to the x minus 3?
Yeah, I am going to eventually do that. I just like showing.
Oh, the
I'm
step.
just showing everything what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
I am going to get 15x.
Okay.
Yeah, you're actually. So Tom, ladies and gentlemen, if you're at home, Tom's actually already started expanding things, right? Which is good. I'm just trying to show you what most students, especially when you learn it for the first time, you need to kind of do it slowly. 2 times x is 2x, and then we're going to distribute it, right? So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. Is everyone okay with that first one? Did I go too fast? Plus, that's the plus sign. So 5 times 3 is 15. This is what Tom was already doing. So 15 times that x, that's 15x. 15 times 1 plus 15. Before we continue, everyone okay? And let me just make sure this is recording, and I can move it over, yeah. Notice the denominator is just rewriting stuff. And notice it's long, right? This is why you don't see like 6 questions or 7 questions of adding or subtracting. You tend to only see 1 or 2 because they take a while, right? And so on your test, you're probably going to see 1 question. Anyways, we're not done. I think a lot of you understand we have that 2x squared minus 6x plus 15x plus 15. I think a lot of you know what the strategy is. Collect the like terms. So 2x squared. What is that? 15 minus 6 is 9. 9x plus 15. And then now we have to see if we can actually factor this. 2 and 1, 15 and 3, 10 minus 3 cannot, no. 5 and 6, no. I don't think this is factored. 15 and 1, no. So I think that's the final answer. Let me just double check with the quadratic formula with the discriminant. Some of you might remember doing this in well, it's not factorable. So it's not factorable. So this is our final answer. So notice that's why, unlike this question, one more time, that's why I was trying to show you, I'm trying to leave it on the chalkboard so that a lot of you can see your work. And hopefully maybe do some critical thinking if you got here, this question A, example 9m minus 18, notice in this case, this one could keep on simplifying further. We took out a GCF of 9, got 9 times m minus 2. In this example, we collect like terms, and I think I did that right. Hopefully, there's no mistakes there. And it's not factored, so this is our final answer. And notice, we tend to leave the numerator alone, and the denominator and factor alone. Any question about that before I get to question C? Just pause here for a second. And if you're watching at home, hopefully it's recorded. Oh, it's about 15 minutes. So let me erase example, this one here. Just leave that on the chalkboard. Hopefully you guys can see. And again, Karen, if you can't see, but if the angle's too sharp, I don't mind you standing up. I apologize. That seat is the hard angle, and Cameron, that seat is also a hard angle seat here. It's the nature of how the classroom. I don't like teaching on the whiteboard anymore. I like teaching chalkboard. And as the last question we're going to do from this handout is question C, and maybe we'll get class participation now. Hopefully you're a little bit more confident. If you mess up, who cares? Who cares, right? This is the whole point. The question C is as follows. C is 3 over x squared minus 2x minus 3 minus 7 over x. So hopefully the class is going to help Mr. Chen out. And I'll lead you a little bit further. Any volunteer want to factor that denominator, that x squared minus 2x minus 3? Any volunteer? Claire, sure.
X minus 3 and x plus 1.
Thank you very much. X minus 3 and x plus 1 is correct. I just decided to write a different way, but she's absolutely correct. This is done. Different volunteer, give us the restrictions. Again, I think you're looking at, and I'll just prompt you. You're looking here, you're looking here, you're looking here. And if you can do this, I think you'll find the quiz easy tomorrow, right? We'll talk more about that. Any volunteer want to try? Sure, Todd?
X cannot equal 0, 3, or negative 1.
Nicely said. Anyone disagree from the class? She looked at that one, that's the 0 part, that's the 3 part, and that's the negative 1. It has to be easy for these, right? Here's the hard question. Oh, here.
Does it matter what order?
It does not matter. So this time I think Kai went from right to left. You can go from left to right. It doesn't matter, right? They're just restrictions. And again, notice you should do that always after you factor. Okay? Sometimes there's more restrictions. That's a good question. Yeah. Here's the hard question. And if you get it wrong, who cares? Can someone try to tell me what's the lowest common multiple? Tom?
1?
1 is not the lowest common multiple. Nice try though.
Yeah.
Claire, you want to try?
X minus 3, x plus 1.
Is correct. Again, all we're just omitting is the word here. Basically, we're taking this denominator, and we're using the product of the two. So one more time, it's x times x plus 1 times x minus 3. And again, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you getting intimidated, go, what the heck? So one more time, just to help everyone out. What a lot of students do is when they look at this denominator, this one is missing just an x. So we're going to multiply this by x over x. And again, I'm just showing you what a lot of kids do. This fraction, this has an x, so this is missing x plus 1 and x minus 3. And that's the only way to do this. You get to multiply everything by 1. So technically, Tom is correct. 1 multiplied by 1 is the lowest common multiple, right? But we want to be, what type of 1 are we going to use? Oh, this kind of 1. Nicely done, Claire. Way to go. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to take my time. Notice what I'm copying out in the denominator. That's the lowest common multiple. X times x plus 1 times x minus 3. What are we going to do here? 3 times x? 3x. Minus, and notice again, with minus you should be suspicious, so just be careful. I made that yellow, and again, it might not pop up on their YouTube video. So I'll put some brackets here, 7 times x plus 1 times x minus 3. So in some sense, maybe it might have been easier just to left this in expanded form. It might have been. Again, we didn't know that when we were doing this problem. I'm just trying to share you some conundrums here. That's why, one more time, in some sense, it would have been better just to left that as x squared minus 2x minus 8, because that's what this is, right? This is this answer, right? I think everyone can see that. And then all I have to do is multiply by 7. So I'm running out of room. So I'm just going to speed this up, so that's okay. What do we got? So we got minus 7x squared. We'll put the square bracket still. Minus 14x minus 21. And then now we distribute that negative, that minus sign. So 3x minus 7x squared plus 14x plus 21 all over this. And hopefully everyone can see this. I might have to erase this part of the chalkboard. So we get the answer fitted in. So what do we got? Negative 7x squared, because normally most students write it in descending order. What's 3x plus 14x? That's 17x plus 21 over x times x plus 1 times x plus 3. And I'm pretty sure this is not factored. I think that's the answer. We're gonna stop there. Any questions about the steps that I showed? And if you didn't get this part again, this is the hard part with subtraction. That's why I recommend you go carefully, because again, although we get negative 3 and then negative 21, which you are correct, when we're gonna subtract it from 3x, it changes to addition. Tom?
Yeah, I don't understand how you get 3x minus 7 in the brackets.
Okay, so I'm speeding this up really quickly. So I'm expanding this, and I'm cheating a little bit, because this x plus 1 times x minus, it's actually this.
Okay.
This is this, because this was this.
I'm just wondering why that's on the numerator.
Because in order to add and subtract fraction, you have to get a common denominator. So if I multiply this x by this x plus 1 over x plus 3, I have to do the same thing for this. For example, one more time, if it was 7 over 3, and the lowest common multiple was 12, right? I have to multiply this by
Oh, yeah,
Four.
yeah.
right? So 4 times 7 is 28. But that's what I'm trying to show you. Now this is obviously, that's why fractions are easy. Rational expressions, hard. Because now we have algebraic terms that are expressed in our lowest common multiple. That's the whole point of this orange stuff. I'm trying to show you how I'm actually writing this next line. X times 3 is 3x, or 3 times x, it's literally 3x. And then 7 times this is 7 times this, which is the x plus 1 times x minus 3. But in order to calculate terms, we have to have them expanded. Right? Okay? Good question.